Okay, so welcome back to our continuing series of lessons in magic. Today we are going to be taking a look at the idea of what is a paradox. What is a paradox, and what does it mean when we talk about things that are paradoxes or things that are paradoxical? What does that mean, and why is that important when we're talking about magic? It's actually important when we're talking about a whole bunch of things, really. But things that are paradoxes, it's like I'm not even going to look up the dictionary definition here, guys. I'm doing this all off the top of my head. There's a paradox for you. Um, a paradox is when things that seem mutually exclusive or opposite actually both can be true at the same time. That's like a general idea. And so to give that to illustrate that for you, an example of a paradox like that would be the sky is blue. Now, if I were to say the sky is blue, most people would tend to agree, yes, the sky is blue, right? So the statement, the sky is blue, but it's also a paradoxical statement because, well, sometimes the sky is gray, and sometimes the sky is orange and pink and purple and all the different color green. Sometimes if you're in the aurora borealis, you know what I mean. So it's like just or sometimes you can't even see the sky at nighttime. You know what I mean. So it's like paradoxically, the statement "the sky is blue" is both true and false at the same time, depending on what you're talking about and how you're using that. And it kind of, what that does is it gives us a hint about the nature of reality, which is that there is a definite form to reality. And today I'm going to kind of try to illustrate and talk about that a little bit more. But I guess I should tell you guys. So here we have a pair of ducks, which I am going to use to illustrate the idea of a paradox in greater detail, right? And so to do that, I don't need just one set of a pair of ducks. In order to illustrate a full paradox, I actually need two sets of ducks, two pairs of ducks. Okay? And the reason that I need that, I'll try to spread them out a little bit nicer there for the camera. Okay, so the reason that I need two pairs is that because it sort of has to do with uh, the whole every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? And so I'm going to use these ducks to be different values, right? You could say the two that are a pair that are the same size, they're large ones, right? It's kind of like they both have the same weight, technically speaking, right? Because they represent the two ends of a spectrum, right? And so they're both heavy at the ends of the spectrum because they represent what the extreme is at either of those ends, right? And then you have these other two ducks here, which represent, you could just to show visually, right, like a positive or a negative arc on a line, right? And the way we're going to do this, right, I'll do it as a square actually, right? It'll be easier for you guys to understand. And so the paradox I'm going to illustrate today is the one of luck. Luck is one of my favorite paradoxes to think about. But basically, uh, what that means is that you can either have really good luck up here in this corner, or really not so great luck down in this corner. Right? You could think about those two as being the opposite ends of the extreme. Now they're different sizes here just because of the camera, right? But each of these weighs the same amount. You could think of them like facing in opposite directions too, right? If we were to look at them like this, it's like really good luck, really not so great luck, right? And so then how does everything else distribute on that arc or that curve or that line as far as luck is concerned, right? Because you would think like, oh well, you want to be the guy that's really lucky, right? You got to have lots of luck. But to be the guy that's really lucky, like that's that far out at the end of the extreme, right? And so the chances of you getting to be there are actually pretty slim. Same actually, paradoxically, to be really, really unlucky, like really badly unlucky, you got to be like really, really far out at the end of the extreme, right? So what that actually means is that the number of people who have really good luck and the number of people who have really, really bad luck that are kind of like equally, comparable to each other in some way, the number gets smaller and smaller the further you go out on that curve. So what that gives us is an idea that actually we don't actually have to worry too much about being super unlucky in life, because it's just as mathematically impossible as being super lucky in life. Yay! Now we can all not worry about random luck anymore. Okay, well that's a good thing to not have to worry about anymore, right? But then we've got the rest of the distribution between everything else. And so where do you want to be and where do you end up on that distribution, right? And those are our other two little ducks here, right? And so the way that it ends up being is that most people, right, kind of spreads like this, right? You have a few people that are lucky, right? And who see themselves as being lucky and can be happy with being lucky. So they're in this one, right? If you saw them on our scale side to side, they'd be kind of here, right? And you have the majority of people end up here. I'll just I'll face them this way just so we can see, right? Face them all this way. But these are the ends of the scale, right? The majority of the people kind of feel like they end up here, regardless of what reality actually is. And it just has to do with how they view distributions of the system, because technically most people could actually be here. You could actually view yourselves as being really like like that's not a bad distribution, right? But it's like most people in life, they kind of like it's hard for us to see the good things in life, and so we put ourselves here naturally, right? It's just kind of a weird paradox of just how you're viewing a situation can determine where you fall, right? On how you view yourself. But really, all of this is kind of also an illusion that's created by you looking for something called luck in the first place. That's interesting. That's also a bit of a paradox. But there's all different kinds of ways that you can look at this. But I wanted to just show you something. I'm not a mathematician, as I have said many times before. I am not a quantum physicist. I don't know how to do quantum mechanics. But I have here my chalkboard. Okay, I was just going to draw you guys a little visual representation of a paradox, two paradoxes, right? Most people think that this is what the curve looks like, right? Everything is good for a while and it gets better and better and better, and then you reach a certain point and the point's up at the top there, and it can't get any better than that. It's just not possible, right? And so then they think that everything from there is a curve that comes down, and then eventually everything evens back out again, and you're no better off than you were when you started. Something like that, right? It's like every product that you've ever made has a product lifetime, and then it hits a point and then can't make it past that point anymore, and well, actually that product's no longer in use anymore, right? Or this is your favorite flavor of ice cream and you liked eating that flavor of ice cream, so you got to a point, you had too much of it, you're not so much of a fan of it anymore. Kind of everything in nature kind of has that kind of pattern to it, and we look at that pattern and we're like, well, it only goes up and then down and that's it, right? That's the only way to look at it. You got to try to get to here. Whatever you're doing in life, you want to get to here and then stay there, right? I'm going to show you a different curve though. So this has to do with the idea of there being like a wave. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a line that represents light coming out from the Big Bang. It goes in a nice straight line. That's supposed to be straight, but don't worry about it. It's straight, okay? We'll just pretend. All right? Go with me here. Okay? So we've got our nice straight line of light coming out of the Big Bang, because isn't that nice? Wouldn't we all like light to travel in straight lines? And we know it kind of does, right? But we also know that light travels in waves, right? And so I'm going to draw here a wave. Hopefully, proportionally, this looks okay on camera. So we've got a wave. Hey, pretty good. Okay. So that's supposed to be yellow and green. Doesn't matter. You can't really tell. But that's our light wave as we understand it, right? But what if we were to think of this as like, I don't know, a hill and a valley, right? What if all of this space here, oh, let me get a smaller piece. Okay, so what if all of this space in here is actually full of something, right? Now we're looking at a contained example, right, of the universe. And now we have a hill and a valley, right? Sow it on the mountain, reap it in the valley, right? So what that means is that we have like a positive space here. I put a positive, right? And we have a negative space here, right? Because there's all this empty space here, right? It's like an equal amount of positive and negative space that's equaling each other out as the light's traveling through the universe. I don't know how it does it. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a mathematician, right? But somehow that keeps going on and it doesn't break itself, right? It's like the same idea, like I think as well, is like you could take the top half of this and tip it over and put it in there and it would be a straight line, right? So it's like, but does it mean that it all cancels each other out? But we can still see the light that's coming at us. So that's interesting. You know what I mean? Another way to think about this, though, probably easier to see with the red, because since I've already done it, right, is that you actually have like a simultaneous theoretical, I don't know, simultaneous negative space that's associated with the wave, right? Sort of like a theoretical, like the light couldn't be any more than that point, right? Negative, theoretically, right? In our contained system. So what does that mean? What is it? Why am I drawing all this? Let me erase this and draw it again so that we can see it just one time from my perspective. I think it represents a paradoxical curve. I could be wrong. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. I'm just some guy who lives in his parents' basement talking about ducks and paradoxes. But, you know, okay, so here's our line, right? Now, you guys all thought that the line goes like this, right? Things get better in life, and then it returns to the medium, right? Like can't get any better, can't get any worse than this, but it can get better, and then it can get back down to there, right? Or you have like maybe there's a theoretical, you know, life could always be worse if we think about it like that. We're always trying to stay above that line, right? What I'm going to try to show you is that I think it actually works like this. So here's our curve again, right? Which is that the curve is divided into four. I'm going to split them up here, right? So you have the first segment of the curve where things get good. So things get better there, right? And then you have your curve that you guys all know about where things get worse, right? And then there also exists this curve where things get really bad. And things get, let's put some minuses. So this is like a not as strong a minus, a strong minus, right? And then it comes back up here again. But that's not like a strong plus either. It's kind of like a weak plus. Right? We'll do it in the yellow. Right? So what I think that means is just by the nature of the universe is that we live in like paradoxical cycles where everything kind of happens on this wavelength. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? It's like all the cycles that we say where we say, oh, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. You know what I mean? Or, maybe when we get to here in life, sometimes we don't even think about how bad things can be, right? We sort of don't pay attention when, we lose our car or our house or something happens to, make things even worse in life. We understand that things got better up to this point and then we lost everything and then, well, by gosh, there it all goes. And we don't pay so much attention to this part and then we're like, okay, well, we can try to overcome this part and we can try to get to here again, right? And we try to make that curve back into that original one that you guys all love, right? The one that just stays up above, right? Either that or we're trying to like stay right here. If we could stay right there, right? And not let things get to that point where it starts to go back down again. You know what I mean? If we could kind of coast, right? Or actually what you want to do is kind of coast around the median if you can. Right? You want to flatten this curve out so that everything gets real nice and easy around the middle. You don't want to be trying to push so high to get out of there. You know what I mean? That you make it harder for yourself, so hard that it's like a ramp that you can't get over. You know what I mean? But it's the paradoxical nature of the universe, I'm pretty sure. And like I could go into how this relates to like Murphy's Law, irony, some of that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to show you, just from a visual perspective, what a paradox is. That you can have the good luck segment right here, the not so good luck segment here, right? The bad luck segment here, and then the getting better out of the bad luck, so not so great luck there. You know what I mean? What that means is that out of the 4 quarters, 3 of them are not so great. So I hate that. Don't shoot the messenger. You know what I mean? The trick is to make the best of this section here, right? Turn that into the acceleration to get back to here again, right? So that you can coast. That's what you want in life. Right? So I was just hoping to show people from a visual perspective that even though the universe may have built into it this nature, an inescapable curve where things are always going to get up to a point where it gets good and then it's going to get bad again, and you're going to have to figure it out. I think we all know. I think we all know that's the nature of the universe. You know what I mean? But just to paradoxically illustrate it, I thought might be helpful for some people and might be a fun way to show them. And because this is an important topic for some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about as we continue on this channel, uh, I just thought that I should really try to do a video that kind of lays out the whole theory of a paradox the best that I can from my perspective as it relates to what we're going to be talking about. So, if you guys enjoyed that, if that was helpful in any ways to kind of see sort of mathematically or visually how we kind of divvy ourselves up and how we think about ourselves, and even just as a mental cue of how you can get yourself back out again, and that there is a way to do it, you know? Sow it on the mountain, reap it in the valley. That's all I got to say, guys. So, if you enjoyed that and would like to continue with some more lessons in magic, tomorrow I'm going to be bringing an episode about logic sets, which should be interesting. And then hopefully we'll be able to get back into some tool restorations just for a little while, because it is the little period after Christmas. I want to get some stuff done, so we'll have some fun, guys. So give me a like, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and come and check me out next time as we continue with more interesting lessons in magic here on the channel. Thanks for checking it out, guys.